Hi, and welcome to Marketing Optimization with Alex Designs. I am your host, Alex Harris, and today we have a special guest, Brian Chappell. Brian is the managing partner at Adapt Partners. They are a search engine and marketing agency located in North Carolina. He has helped many companies achieve significant multi-million-dollar increases in revenue since 2005. How you doing today, Brian?
Great, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Before we get started, I'd like to tell people what your definition of optimization is and how do you do it for your clients.
Sure. So, I guess at the highest level, since I'm what I call myself as an internet marketer, at the highest level, it's basically kind of a process that we, no matter kind of what really we're doing, whether it's building a website, launching a website, promoting it, gaining organic search traffic, driving PPC traffic, there's some level of optimization that's going on. And typically that revolves around the idea of trying or testing something quickly. So not spending too much time to, 7-8 months to find out exactly what it needs to be. Let's figure out how we can try or test something in a small case, and then quickly trying to identify then after we launch that, analyzing if it's a success or a failure, and then going back into that process and iterating, and then either fleshing out maybe the rest of that component of what we were doing, or maybe just adjusting based off of the feedback or the analysis that we got on the initial experimentation, and then doing something bigger and better each time. So that way, over time things become bigger and better and they work better. So it's not this idea of just waiting, finally going live, and then having to wait another 7 to 8 months after you have to retool something. So it's this idea of kind of the agile in the agile world. You want to test and fail fast. So we apply that with a lot of the things that we do on a daily basis.
So you can't do optimization once and just forget about it. It's
No.
that process of continuously going back and failing and learning from all those different steps.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how'd you get started in the optimization space?
So it basically, for me, it came out of college. I went to college for business. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. I took a couple development classes, took some traditional just management business classes. But the time I was afforded basically in college, the free time, is where I was just pounding away on the internet looking for basically ways to make money. And for better or worse, I got into the search engines space specifically through what's called traffic exchanges. You typically don't see these anymore, but the old school idea was that you would end up clicking on people's sites and then accruing, essentially you would accrue points, and then those points you could then use to send people to your affiliate site or your ebook download to try to get people into your funnel. But that's kind of where it all started. I quickly realized that was just a real scammy kind of silly thing to do, but you could make an impact, and it was interesting because it got me kind of first acclimated to the idea of optimizing the process. So I was ever trying to figure out how to make a macro to automatically do this, so I could just set it up and not actually have to be in front of my computer. But then that's what everybody else is doing too. So then that scheme or system kind of quickly did not work after a while, and most of the sites are no longer in existence, obviously. But that's kind of where it all started. And even before that, I was doing a little bit of web development in the late 90s, and then realized that the marketing side was a little bit more interesting to me. So then focusing more on traffic development over time was basically where it kind of all started.
So I think you've become really a great spokesman for your blog and telling people how to drive traffic to your site. And I think one of the problems that people have is really driving qualified traffic in order to generate leads. Do you have any best practices for tips on how to drive traffic to your site and then generate leads from that traffic?
Yeah, so a lot of times, everybody loves free traffic, and I especially love free traffic, and that's kind of why organic's been a big focus for me over the years. But it's not the only channel at all, and it's evolving very, very rapidly, actually, in the last 12 to 24 months. But typically, it's kind of that same approach where I think the biggest problem a lot of folks have is they want to identify the perfect traffic really before they even can really say whether it's going to work or not. So they end up kind of not getting it finished or not getting it done because of it. So a lot of times I think the better approach is let's say you want to attack a new vertical, just kind of go out and build a small website and build it out a little bit, make a 15-page website, and just see kind of how things shake out and start and slowly kind of see how the traffic's coming in. Are you even having any ability to rank? Is it too competitive? But then over time, you'll quickly kind of see the kinds of, and certainly this is changing now that not provided is in there, but and this is making it a little bit more difficult. But seeing what kind of volume is there and what kind of traffic, putting up maybe a form, like if it's a lead gen play.
Right.
So go ahead and put up a form, even though you might not be able to facilitate anything with the form, just as a method to start to understand maybe the general conversion rate of that traffic. So that way over time, as you're doing more qualified research and you're actually identifying, maybe through a PPC campaign, exactly the top converting keywords, you'll be able to take that back in your system. But just getting something started I think says a lot if you're trying to execute this effectively. But certainly that's not the use case for all businesses. A lot of businesses kind of already out there, so they need to attack this completely different. But if you're starting something from scratch, I think a lot of times it's beneficial just go ahead and get something up, just and using a lightweight platform like WordPress. That way you're not getting stuck in the details. It's just kind of all already kind of pre-built for you in a way that allows things to happen quickly.
Yeah, I think it's, search has definitely evolved, especially in the last year. Getting that traffic is so important. Everybody does love free traffic. Do you have a framework for getting backlinks or doing guest posts? How are some ways that people can get external traffic driving to their sites?
So I mean, in terms of link building, specifically there's a significant amount of changes recently there as well. Obviously, as folks have kind of used these tired tactics that are very kind of churn and burn. You click a button and the directory gets submitted out. You automatically get 500 links over the course of 2 to 3 months of a certain level of quality. And unfortunately, what we've seen is a lot of these sites that employed those tactics over maybe the last 4, 5, 6 years are starting to really eat the dust in terms of if those links were actually holding them where they are in terms of ranking and search, they're probably falling off relatively quickly, and then just having this arduous process of link cleanup and then playing this whole disavow game with Google with the hopes that they can recover traffic that they once had. So links to me, it's you need to be very careful. A lot of the links, especially that we might implement, link building strategies we might implement for our clients, are very custom, and unfortunately they don't scale well, which is bad for us, but much better for the client long term, and much better when we think about building things that will be around and will be able to stomach algorithm changes over the course of the next few years. So typically, my method for like link building is not to be the most aggressive person. So if I'm doing a lot of things that Google might not appreciate so much, it's going to be in a very, very small scale, and it's going to be articulated in a way that might be hard for my competitors or just somebody doing a spot check on the site to even really know for sure that it's against the terms of service kind of thing, or against Google's guidelines. So we're very, we don't do a lot of things that are too aggressive, but at the same hand, you have to be somewhat aggressive. Otherwise, if you listen to Google, your stuff generally just won't rank, even though they would like you to think that way. From my experience over the years, listening to Google more often than not can be kind of bad advice. So you've got to kind of find that happy medium. Right. So for me, like where I have been more aggressive, typically it's worked out really well long term, as long as I wasn't, say the most aggressive, or I might be like the 4th or 5th most aggressive person, and then having the extra layer of kind of just natural things that are going on. So tying search in my mind. It's funny because when I got into search, I thought PR folks were kind of scammy people, and I'm sure they probably feel the same way about SEOs. But now it's like PR is actually a pretty interesting way to at least have a front that you're not like trying to over manipulate things.
Right.
But if you do it right, you can kind of PR can be just some of the traditional kind of things can be really effective in terms of generating signals that we're seeing as beneficial for sites, especially in the long run as they try to weed out sites that are not kind of brand agnostic. They're not entities that they can identify. There's a huge shift with brands. So with links, it's not cookie cutter. It's on a case by case basis, and it really does circulate a lot. It's the same situation though. You're emailing somebody to link to you. So the ways that might change are now we're having to invest a little bit more with content. Well, actually not a little bit more, but a lot more with content. So we want to make sure that whatever kind of piece of content that we are creating to then pitch out, it's got to be buttoned up. It's got to be done really, really well.
So not going outside of just posting links or guest posting on random sites, but really staying within your niche and that credibility. Essentially that that authority is going to pass the link juice. Is Google understanding how that really works if you're staying in the same vertical or same space?
Well, I don't think it definitely matters, but it's not the end of the world if you're getting citations from irrelevant places, just because people naturally are going to talk about things that they might talk
right.
If somebody's got a mommy blog, they might talk about something random. So it's not the end of the world, but it's just like you don't want to set off patterns. You don't want to set off getting back to that whole idea of just not being the most aggressive person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, especially in my opinion, with ranking factors, when taking this back to a real world example, or just a better idea is if somebody's ranking, let's say with the 1 through 10, most of the folks have maybe let's say less than like 100 links to their site, right? And then you're over here, building out thousands of links. That's probably going to be a pattern that's easily distinguishable by an algorithm. So staying away from those kinds of things, even though as glorious as it might be to see a 2-month turnaround time and going from the top 20 spot to now the top 3 or 4, it's a short term kind of thing. And with the way the algorithms are working, they're becoming much more aggressive with us. Or in the past, you wouldn't see that kind of like fall out so quickly. But the last thing you want is just years and years of bad link building that now has to get cleaned up.
Yeah.
So we will approach it very, very kind of hands-on, custom. It's much more time intensive. The content's got to be there. We're not sending people just to our homepage to link to it, unless that's the specific focus. But more often than not, we're creating very, very, very good content that answers a question and does it really well. So a lot of times, for our quality checklist, it's just like, can I say to myself that this is the most definitive best guide on X subject?
Right.
And if it is, great. We really have to focus on shooting for building really great content assets for our clients, just because the conversion rates we're going to see on the link building front are just going to be so much higher, and it's also just from a branding standpoint, from a longevity standpoint, that's the kind of content too that will also pick up natural links on its own. So there's definitely a big focus for us. Not that it's really anything new. I've always kind of more played on the side of less links, more quality, more work. And doing that in tandem with other optimization points to inevitably help you make more money. It's just been part of the process, but it's when you can make wins for websites without having to do just focus concerted link building effort. For example, maybe you're doing conversion rate tests or you're just refocusing the traffic in a way that leads to higher conversions. It's going to be a great thing, because then you don't have to be as aggressive necessarily.
Absolutely.
With just on one specific tactic like link building.
Yeah, driving that mass amounts of traffic, but not increasing your budgets, but increasing your conversion rates. You're gonna have a better max return on investment for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, you gave us some really great takeaways. Do you want to leave anybody with any specific examples about lead generation or search optimization? Any tips that you want to leave anybody with?
Sure. There are definitely some patterns you see with, especially on the lead gen side, just things that basically everybody, I can almost look at a site and just make sure that, I can almost say every time that you've got to make sure that this is going on, this is going on, this is going on, just
right.
as a blanket statement. One of them is just making your form simple. So if you're trying to get somebody to contact you, first off, have a form on your website. Some people don't even have that. They just have like an email.
Right.
It's like you add a form, all of a sudden, twice as many people are contacting you because they're lazy and they just want to put it in the field there, or whatever reason when you click on the link it's not working. So that's an easy place to start. But it's not just having a form; it's also making it simple. So I do work a lot with WordPress as a platform, just because it's very turnkey, and I've been working with it for so long that it creates a huge level of efficiency when it comes to getting things updated and live. And then just maintenance mode kind of stuff. It makes it much easier. But I do like a form called Gravity Forms. I built out all of our kind of like abilities for tracking and CRM integration into it, and that works really well. But generally, if I'm putting a new Gravity Forms on a website, you want to make it simple. Just ask your phone, name, email, maybe a couple other pieces or criteria, but then letting kind of your sales side take care of the rest and fulfilling the rest. But that certainly does vary. If your goal is to sell leads or something, then having the more qualified lead is better. So then maybe it's a situation where you're getting into two-step forms, where you collect some of the information, get the user into the funnel, and then if they were to bounce, you at least have that information, and you can get the rest, but giving them still the option to fill out the rest. That way the lead is more qualified depending on what you're doing with it. But that's kind of a lot of, like, I would say 90% of the time, so you see site owners that the way it's done is they've had their development agency build a site and they're just not thinking through these kinds of things. So they list everything out that the CEO asked for, and the CEO isn't an optimization expert. He's an expert in whatever he's selling. Right. So he doesn't know to tell the developer to make sure the form is simple and it's on the right pages and things like that. So a lot of time, like more often than not, like that's an easy place to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Placing call to actions above the fold, really understanding what's above the fold and what's not. And then if you've got really important things below the fold, how do you entice people to get down the page? A lot of times it just comes from great content, testing, kind of, the hero shot above the fold, to retain that person's interest. But, that's where, using a tool like a virtual website optimizer or some of the more sophisticated A/B testing tools comes into play. That we certainly do a bit of at Adapt Partners. And then, just making sure kind of you understand, another big thing here is just understanding kind of where the traffic's coming from and what you're trying to do with it. Like just for example, like you would never want, like, so there's some companies that have a B2B side and a B2C side. So just making sure that, your traffic isn't, becoming too diluted in terms of going to one landing page and then trying to have to serve, 17 different buyer personas from that one page. So that kind of gets down to, just having specific focused landing pages, whether it's for PPC efforts or even for organic, having the specific pages that are answering the specific question that a certain type of buyer or consumer would have, and then going kind of that route. That's how you kind of can safely say that your traffic is going to be targeted in a way that you can hang your hat up at the end of the day and say that this test worked, because you just want to make sure that the types of buyers that are going to these landing pages are still in the same kind of mode, the intent's kind of the same if you're making some of these changes, because the worst thing that can happen is 1,900 different things going on in terms of all of a sudden email marketing shuts down for a month. You're trying to add too many new PPC campaigns going to the same page. Maybe you're completely changing things, so your search traffic now starts to shift in terms of the keywords that are coming to it, and then you're trying to say, like, we're running this test, but the conversion rate went down. Well, it might not have actually been because of the test you're running. It's because you were really shifting the traffic that was going to that page so substantially. So in some ways, you need to kind of focus and stay kind of small in your testing, and not do too much at one time. So that's another thing that just kind of blanket statement we can kind of assess pretty much on every single basis that we've had that going on. And then just basic things like just making sure that you're not trying to drive all your traffic to your homepage or something. Because if your homepage is important from a search, organic search perspective, making changes that would help PPC from a conversion standpoint, because the conversion test says that this one, you've now maybe had to actually de-optimize the page from an organic keyword search perspective. Absolutely. So making sure that you've got specific landing pages for the specific kinds of buyers and the specific kind of intent that people have when they're coming to the site is definitely going to serve you really well down the road. But a lot of times you do see people, dumping $250,000 a year at a homepage, and those are the easy kind of quick wins that we can make in terms of fixing and addressing those, and seeing increased conversions because you're now driving that traffic to a more targeted page, and then you can actually test it and see success, or know that it's not working and be able to know for sure that it's because of maybe the copy that you changed on the page. It's not some other factor that's in the mix that you might not have associated with.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to relevancy. You have all these different people who are coming to your site, whether they're searching or they're clicking on an ad, and you really have to create that experience for them. Not only for them, but you have to figure it for the search engines too. You don't want to necessarily do your pay-per-click ads, pay-per-click landing pages for your natural search landing pages, and all that type of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. There's some really great insight and some clear takeaways that you can use on any site, whether you have a large site or a small site, small traffic, large traffic. Let's end up by telling people how they can get in touch with you and what the future holds for you.
Yeah, sure. So if you want to contact me, my email is brian@adaptpartners.com. That's just adaptpartners.com, ADAPT partners.com. And then if you want to, when I do get some time, which honestly hasn't been as much as in the past, I do like to blog on brianchappell.com, or I'm on Twitter at just Brian Chappell, one word.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for your time, Brian.
Thanks.